All right, buckle up, everybody, because we are diving deep today, deep into Exodus.
Exodus, yeah.
Chapters 5 through 7, to be exact.
Okay.
It's where things really start to heat up, you know?
Yeah.
We've got excerpts from the study guide.
Uh-huh.
It really zeroes in on Moses and Aaron, going head-to-head with Pharaoh.
Right.
And all that drama that unfolds before,
The plagues.
The plagues, exactly. We're talking power struggles, family
Shocking.
secrets, and, maybe even a little bit of free will or, the lack thereof.
Oh, yeah. Those are always fun to unpack.
So picture this. Okay. Moses and Aaron, they've just come back to Egypt.
Okay.
Fresh off that, epic encounter with God at the burning bush, right?
Sure.
And what's the first thing they do?
Well, they march right up to Pharaoh.
They march right up to Pharaoh.
And they say, let my people go.
Boom. Let my people go, they say, so they can, worship Yahweh out in the desert.
Big demand.
Big demand. Now, for those of you who maybe, haven't cracked open Exodus in a while,
Yeah.
this isn't just like, asking Pharaoh to borrow a cup of sugar.
Oh, no.
This is a big deal.
You got to remember, back in ancient Egypt, Pharaoh wasn't just some king, right?
Right.
He was basically considered a god, like a living god.
Right, yeah.
Total power,
Yeah.
the Israelites. Basically his slaves.
Hmm.
So when Moses and Aaron waltz in and drop this bomb, our God says you got to let him go.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Talk about a power move.
It's a direct challenge to everything.
Yeah.
His authority, his worldview, everything.
And how does Pharaoh react?
Well, pretty much as you'd expect.
Yeah.
Who's this Yahweh character? Never heard of him? Not letting anyone go.
Who is Yahweh?
Yeah, that question's huge.
It is.
Almost like God's using this whole Exodus thing as like a giant introduction.
Right.
Not just for the Israelites, but for Pharaoh, the Egyptians. I mean, everyone.
Yeah.
For all of us, really.
Like God saying, hey, you're about to find out who I am.
Exactly.
So how does Pharaoh flex his power?
Oh, he doesn't just say no.
Right.
He makes life way harder for the Israelites.
Oh.
Tell them they now got to gather their own straw to make the same crazy quota of bricks.
Ooh. Talk about adding insult to injury.
Talk about a power move, right?
It's a power move for sure, but it's pretty strategic.
Oh, totally.
It's not just punishment. It's designed to, pit the Israelites against Moses and Aaron.
Right. Make them think, oh, great, these guys show up, and now we have even more work to do.
Classic divide and conquer.
Pharaoh's hoping they'll blame Moses and Aaron for this whole mess.
And that's exactly what happens.
Of course.
Israelites start grumbling. It's all your fault.
We were better off before.
Right. But this isn't just some ancient history lesson. This dynamic, it plays out all the time, even today.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Think about it.
Yeah.
Workplaces, families, you name it.
Politics, for sure.
Politics, right. Someone comes along, tries to shake things up.
Right.
Even if they're trying to help,
Yeah.
you get pushback.
Resistance.
Resistance.
Backlash.
Backlash.
Remember, the Israelites were slaves for generations, right? It's
Right.
all they knew.
Yeah.
So even the idea of freedom, I mean, that's got to be scary.
Terrifying even.
It's terrifying.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Do we sometimes resist change?
Mm-hmm.
Even good change?
Even when it's for the best,
Yeah.
because it's too much.
Too unknown.
Too unknown, yeah.
So Moses, he's understandably frustrated.
Right.
Goes back to God and he's like, hey, you promised to help.
Sure.
What's going on here?
What gives?
Yeah.
What gives? He's at a low point, right?
Total low point.
Doubt,
Despair.
despair. But God, instead of being angry,
Yeah.
he reassures Moses.
He does.
Lays
right.
out these four powerful statements of salvation.
Powerful. And these statements, they become super important later on.
Oh, yeah.
Like during Passover,
Mm-hmm.
people drink 4 cups of wine.
Right.
Each cup represents one of those promises.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is. It's like those ancient stories get woven into the very fabric of faith and practice.
Exactly.
So then our study guide throws us a curveball.
Oh.
It goes into this whole genealogy,
Okay.
listing the descendants of Levi.
One of Jacob's sons.
Right, one of Jacob's sons. And, at first glance, it's like, okay, this is a little dry.
A little bit dry.
Maybe not super relevant, But, as always,
There's always something more, right?
there's always something more to these stories
Yeah.
than meets the eye.
So what's the more here?
Well, this isn't just any family tree.
Okay.
It's setting the stage for, the whole Levitical priesthood.
Right, which was like the thing
Huge.
for centuries in Israelite worship.
Central. And get this. It
Yeah.
connects all the way to King David
Oh.
and ultimately to Jesus.
No way. So you're saying this genealogy is like A sneak peek at Jesus' lineage.
Pretty incredible, right?
It's wild.
And there's another layer to this.
Another layer. Okay.
Aaron, he marries Elisheba
Elisheba.
from the tribe of Judah.
So you've got the priestly line from Levi
Right.
and the royal line from Judah,
Coming together.
foreshadowing Jesus.
Who's both king and priest.
It's like a tapestry, isn't it?
It is, right? This seemingly random detail
Yeah.
becomes this thread that ties the Old Testament to the New.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. And there's one more name in this genealogy that kind of jumps out.
Oh, which one?
Phineas.
Phineas, okay.
He gets this special covenant with God.
He does. And our study guide points out this is the 6th of 8 covenants mentioned in the Bible.
Oh, wow.
So it's not just some random event.
No.
It's part of this bigger plan.
Part of the grand scheme of things. It's like we're seeing God's plan unfold.
Yeah.
Step by step.
Yeah.
Even in these little details that seem, insignificant at first.
Exactly.
And with all this context, we're finally ready to see that first plague hit.
The Nile turning to blood.
The Nile turning to blood, a plague that strikes at the very heart of Egyptian life.
The Nile.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a river.
No.
It was the lifeblood of their whole civilization.
Yeah.
Represented life, fertility, abundance.
Yeah.
So this plague, this isn't just a minor inconvenience.
Yeah.
It was an attack on their whole foundation.
Wow.
It's symbolic too.
Yeah.
A direct challenge to the Egyptian gods.
Right.
Especially the ones associated with the Nile.
And the description is pretty graphic.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking dead fish,
Yeah.
stinky water,
Uh-huh.
the river literally turning blood red.
It's horrible.
Horrifying, but powerful.
Powerful.
Right. It's like God saying, I'm in control here.
Not your God.
Not your gods. And
Yeah.
this plague, it seems to have only affected the Egyptians. The Israelites over in Goshen, they were spared.
It's a sign.
Yeah.
God's protecting his people.
Even while he's bringing judgment on their oppressors. So we've got this dramatic scene.
Yeah.
The Nile, blood red.
Egyptians freaking out.
Israelites watching.
In awe.
What happens next? Do the Egyptian magicians try to counter this plague?
Well, they do. They try to replicate the miracle.
Okay.
But they can't fully undo it.
Mm.
Powerful reminder that God's power is greater than,
Yeah.
than any human power.
Than any human power.
Even though they couldn't, fully replicate it,
Yeah.
Pharaoh's still not giving in.
Right.
Nope. Heart's still hardened.
Okay.
And that basically sets the stage for the next plague.
Which is
Frogs.
frogs. Really? that seems kind of, I don't know,
Kind of tame.
kind of tame.
After turning the Nile to blood, frogs.
Yeah.
Well, trust me,
Okay.
this plague, it's worse than you think.
Okay.
We're not talking about a few frogs hopping around the palace, okay? This is full-blown infestation.
Oh, wow.
Frogs everywhere.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Houses, bedrooms, ovens,
No.
kneading bowls, you name it.
Oh, my God.
You can't escape them.
That's a nightmare.
It is.
But, okay, so was there, a symbolic meaning behind this one, too? Like with the Nile?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So you've got this goddess, Hecate, usually depicted with, you guessed it, a frog head
A frog head. Okay.
associated with fertility and childbirth.
Uh-huh.
So this plague, it's kind of like mocking her power,
Right.
Plus frogs, they were considered unclean.
In Egyptian culture.
Totally.
Okay.
So having them swarm your house,
Yeah.
that's not just physically gross, it's spiritually messed up too.
Like spiritually defiling.
Exactly.
So it's a strategic strike.
Okay.
Hits them on all levels.
Practical, spiritual, psychological, the whole shebang.
Okay. This time, Pharaoh's got a cave, right?
Yeah. Well, he does call for Moses and Aaron,
Okay.
but not to surrender. He begs them to make it stop.
The frogs.
The frogs, yeah.
Okay.
He even promises to let the Israelites go
Okay.
if they could just end this amphibian nightmare.
So bargaining.
Bargaining.
Did it work?
Well, Moses asked Pharaoh, okay, when do you want these frogs gone?
Mhm.
And Pharaoh's like, tomorrow.
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 So they struck a deal.
Okay.
Were the Israelites free to go?
So Moses prays to God,
Okay.
and the next day, the frogs start dying.
Okay.
But as soon as they're gone,
Yeah.
Pharaoh, what does he do?
Backs out.
Backs out,
Of course.
changes his mind,
Ugh. Classic Pharaoh.
hardens his heart again,
Again.
refuses to let them go.
Seriously, what will it take with this guy?
Right.
This whole thing with the frogs, it brings up a question about free will.
Okay.
The text says God hardened Pharaoh's heart,
Right.
but Pharaoh also chose to break his promise.
Yeah.
So was he really in control? Or was he part of God's plan all along?
That's a question that's been debated for like centuries,
Right.
by theologians, philosophers, everybody.
No easy answer.
No easy answer.
It's this whole interplay of,
Divine sovereignty and human freedom.
yeah.
It's complicated.
It is.
But maybe it's not about, like, figuring out who's pulling the strings.
Okay.
Maybe it's about recognizing that God is working,
Yeah.
even when we're stubborn, even when we disobey.
I like that.
Yeah.
So frogs are gone. Pharaoh's gone back on his word. The Israelites are still stuck.
Still stuck.
What happens next?
Well, God sends another plague.
Another plague.
This one's a little more, well, let's just say you don't want it in your hair.
Don't tell me it's lice.
Lice.
Yeah.
Or gnats, depending on the translation.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the text describes this infestation of kinim, these little creatures.
Yeah.
They cover the land, tormenting people, animals, everybody.
I'm already itchy just thinking about it.
Oh, it's bad.
But, okay, if these plagues are about showing God's power,
Yeah.
why choose something as, I don't know, tiny as lice?
That's what's interesting, right? It's like
Yeah.
a reminder that God can use anything
Anything.
to accomplish his purposes.
Even lice.
Even lice.
Okay.
It challenges us,
Yeah.
We tend to think power equals big, flashy displays.
Right.
But sometimes the smallest things
Yeah.
have the biggest impact.
I like that.
So, did the Egyptian magicians try to handle this one?
I mean, they gotta try, right?
They tried. They failed.
They fail.
Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
The text says they tried all their tricks. Nothing.
Nothing worked.
And they even admit,
To Pharaoh.
they say, this is the finger of God.
Oh.
That's a huge statement
Yeah.
coming from them,
The religious elite.
the top dogs.
They're admitting they're up against something they can't control.
Something bigger than them.
Yeah, something bigger than them.
Did that convince Pharaoh, though?
What do you think?
Nope.
Nope.
Hearts still hearts.
Still hard.
Israelites still in bondage.
But something's changed.
Yeah.
The magicians,
Right.
they recognize the hand of Yahweh.
For the first time.
Yeah, for the first time.
It's like a crack in their worldview.
right.
Like a little sliver of doubt.
In their gods.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, so we've had blood, frogs, lice.
Yeah, what's next?
Plague number 4.
Hit me.
It's a bit of a mystery, actually.
a mystery.
Yeah, the words ara
is it-
means mixture.
Mixture. Okay.
So scholars, they debate what exactly this plague was.
Okay.
But a lot of people think it was like a swarm, insects, maybe wild animals,
Oh, okay.
a mix of different pests.
Oh, great. Even worse than the frogs.
Yeah, probably.
And this time, the text says the Israelites, they're specifically spared
Right? It mentions
this Arav, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's everywhere in Egypt,
Mm.
except Goshen,
Yeah.
where the Israelites are.
Another reminder.
Oh.
God's protecting his people. Yeah, even in the middle of judgment.
Even when things seem messy, unfair,
Yeah.
God's still working things out.
Okay, so how does Pharaoh react to this plague of, biblical proportions?
Well, he calls Moses and Aaron,
Okay.
and he offers a compromise. He says, okay, fine, you can go sacrifice to your God,
Okay.
but don't go too far.
Don't go too far. So, like, a little bit of freedom,
Tiny bit.
but not really.
No, really.
It's like he's trying to bargain with God.
It is, right.
Yeah, like he doesn't get it.
Doesn't quite grasp who he's dealing with.
So what did Moses do?
Moses, guided by God,
Uh-huh.
he sees right through it.
Of course.
He knows the Israelites need to be totally free.
To worship Yahweh.
Exactly.
Okay.
So he says, no, we're going into the wilderness.
He's standing his ground,
Oh, yeah.
even though it could, cost him.
It's risky.
It's risky.
So what about the Arav?
Right. What happened to the Ura?
Moses prays to God,
Yeah.
and they disappear.
Oh, God.
But then
You know it's coming.
Pharaoh changes his mind again,
I should have known.
hardens his heart, refuses to let them go.
It's almost comical at this point.
Right.
Plague, plea, promise, backtrack.
Every single time.
So the Israelites are still stuck. Pharaoh's back to his old ways.
Back to square one.
What happens next? Does God, up the ante?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
This time it's the livestock.
The livestock.
Horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, sheep, goats, all of it.
All of it.
They start dying off.
Okay, now we're talking serious consequences.
This is big.
Not just annoying bugs or smelly water.
Yeah.
This hits Egypt where it hurts.
Their economy, their food supply, everything.
Did this finally break Pharaoh?
This one seems to actually get to him.
Okay.
The text mentions that his own livestock died.
Oh, wow.
But even that,
Yeah.
not enough.
He still refused.
Slippery sis.
His pride's more important than his people.
More important than his own possessions.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay. I think we all know what's coming next.
5 plagues down.
Uh.
Pharaoh's heart still harder than, well, a brick without any straw. What does God do?
This time, it's both humans and animals.
Both humans and animals.
Boils,
Boil.
painful sores,
Oh, that's awful.
erupting all over their bodies.
What's the symbolism with this one?
Well, back then, skin diseases,
Yeah.
they were seen as like signs of impurity.
Ritual impurity.
Right.
Okay.
So it's like a further degradation
Of the Egyptian.
of the Egyptian.
Okay.
Yeah, like a sign of their spiritual corruption.
Like what's on the outside reflects what's on the inside.
Exactly.
So what about the magicians? Could they handle this one?
This time they're hit too.
They get the boils.
They get the boils, yeah.
Wow.
They can't even stand before Moses.
Really?
It's that bad.
So they're out of the picture.
They're out.
Victims of their own defiance.
You could say that.
So it's down to Pharaoh,
Yeah.
covered in boils.
Yep.
Livestock, dead. Magicians, out of commission.
She's alone.
Did he finally give up?
Nope.
Nope.
Even covered in boils.
He still refuses.
Still refuses.
I can't even.
What will it take?
What will it take?
Well, get ready for a show of force. Plague number 7 is hail.
Ale. Okay.
But not ordinary hail.
No.
This is fire mingled with the hail.
Fire and ice.
Basically,
Raining down.
raining down.
Okay, even Pharaoh can't ignore that, right?
This storm, it's described as unlike anything they've ever seen.
Wow.
So intense that even Pharaoh's officials,
Yeah.
they start getting nervous.
Okay.
Rushing to bring their servants and livestock inside.
For protection.
Yeah.
So even among the Egyptians, there's this sense of fear that this is...
Serious?
that's a
Like,
quite-
this is the real deal.
Yeah.
But what about Pharaoh?
Did this change his mind?
Yeah, this time it's different.
Okay.
Pharaoh, he calls for Moses and Aaron.
Okay.
And he says, I messed up. I sinned. Yahweh, he's right. I'm wrong. My people are wrong.
So he's finally letting the Israelites go.
Well, he promises to let them go.
But there's always a but with Pharaoh.
Yeah. He wants Moses to ask God to make the hail stop first.
First, then he'll let them go.
It's like he's trying to bargain.
Yeah, like he still doesn't get it.
So Moses, what does he do?
I mean, he's got to at least try, right?
He goes outside the city, raises his hands, prays to God.
And the hail stops.
Boom. Just like that.
Thunder, lightning, gone. Sun comes out.
It's like a literal weight has been lifted.
Yeah, it's a powerful image. God's mercy. Even when things are bad.
But Pharaoh's keeping his word this time, right?
Right.
Oh, no.
No. As soon as the storm's over,
What does he do?
changes his mind again.
Of course. It's unbelievable.
Hardens his heart. Won't let the Israelites go.
I don't even know what to say at this point. What's the point of all this? Will he ever learn? It's a good question. And I'm sure the Israelites were asking the same thing. But remember, these plagues, they're not just for Pharaoh. They're for everyone.
What do you mean?
They're about God showing his power, his judgment to the Egyptians, the Israelites, to us.
Oh,
Even.
it's like a message for all time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's bigger than just Pharaoh. So 7 plagues down, we're still stuck.
Stuck. What's next?
Locusts.
Locusts. Okay.
A massive swarm covers all of Egypt, eats every single plant.
Oh, wow. This isn't just a nuisance anymore. This is serious.
The text says there was darkness because the swarm was so thick. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Crops gone, no food, the whole economy just destroyed.
How could Pharaoh even ignore that?
Well, even his own officials begged him to let the Israelites go. They said, this guy, he's a trap. Let them go so they can worship Yahweh.
Finally, they're seeing it.
But Pharaoh,
He doesn't listen.
nope, tries to bargain again, says he'll let the men go,
The men.
but not the women or children. Still trying to control things.
Wow. He's really lost it, hasn't he? What did Moses say?
Rejects it completely. Says everyone goes or no one goes.
Mm-hmm.
Young, old, animals, everything. Just like God commanded.
He's not backing down. Good for him. What about the locusts? Did they just stay there?
Moses, he stretches out his staff.
Mm-hmm.
A strong wind blows. Locusts gone. Back into the Red Sea.
Wow.
Not a single one left.
Okay, so after all that, he finally gives in, right?
I wish I could say yes, but no.
No.
Hearts still hardened. Israelites still stuck.
It's hard to believe, you know?
I know. It's tough.
But there's still 3 more plagues.
Right. We're not done yet.
So what's next?
This one's scary. Darkness.
Darkness.
Not just nighttime. It's like a thick darkness. Covers all of Egypt for 3 days.
3 days.
3 days. It said you could even feel it.
I can't even imagine. What does this darkness, represent?
Well, in those days, darkness meant chaos, death. the opposite of life.
It's like anti-creation.
Exactly. And it's another attack on the Egyptian gods. Ra, the sun god.
God showing that even darkness has to obey him.
Yeah, exactly.
What about the Israelites? Were they in the dark too?
They had light in their homes.
Wow, so Egypt's in darkness, but God's people have light. It's a powerful image.
It is. Did it affect Pharaoh?
I mean, it had to, right?
He calls Moses again, offers another compromise, says he'll let the Israelites go,
Finally.
but they have to leave your animals.
He's still bargaining. Seriously.
Still clinging to control. What did Moses say?
He said no, right?
He said no. All or nothing.
So Pharaoh, what did he do?
Refused. Told Moses to get out. Said if he ever saw him again, he'd kill him.
Wow. He really chose his path, even though it's like a path to destruction.
It is. It's tragic, really. Human pride, refusing to listen to God.
And this sets up that final plague, the death of the firstborn.
Right. The one that finally breaks Pharaoh.
Yeah.
And sets the Israelites free.
But it's more than that, right?
Yeah. It points to something bigger.
The Passover lamb.
Sacrifice to save the Israelites points to Jesus, the ultimate sacrifice, who sets us free from, sin, death, all that.
So the Exodus, it's not just about leaving Egypt, it's about spiritual freedom, too.
Exactly. It's a journey that, we're all still on, in a way.
That's deep. We've covered so much. God's power, judgment, but also his mercy, faithfulness. We saw how stubbornness and pride can really mess things up. But also the hope of redemption. It's been a journey.
It has. And as you keep thinking about Exodus, remember Pharaoh's question, who is Yahweh? It's a question we should all ask ourselves, Who is God in your life? What are you holding on to? What freedom are you searching for?
Those are great questions. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everybody.